Hello, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today, we're going to do a fast and loose tonalist watercolor landscape painting. In front of me, I have a 8x10 sheet of the Stonehenge. This is just the regular Legion paper, 90 pound. I believe it's the Fawn toned. And I've been going through this tube of Da Vinci Sepia, and just playing with it on different papers and different applications. This time I'm going to add in some white gouache. I will probably not allow these two to mix, but I'm going to use the tone of the paper to start off in the one direction, kind of darken things, and then use the white gouache to lighten things up. Just tearing off a piece of paper towel and getting ready. Alright, I just coated it with water, so it's good to go. This paper I find soaks differently than the 140 pound Stonehenge Aqua, so if you're going to follow along, just be prepared for that and be aware of those differences. The cats both have the zoomies, so if you hear crashing and clanging, it's them running around. I don't have a set composition in mind, and I'm using the approach of the tonalist oil painters, Stuart Davies, Dennis Sheehan, who will take their oils and apply and wipe back and forth. But obviously in this case we're using watercolor. So let's see. I think, let's get some pigment and tone up in here. We'll get an idea what we want to do. And not sure if I mentioned it, but of course you are welcome to follow along. And anything you follow along with, you're more than welcome to sign your own name, and you have my express permission to sell anything you do whenever you follow along. I want you guys to be successful and to have fun. I've been working on a lot of things for the August and September art show, so I haven't filmed in a few days. I had oils set up, I had acrylics set up, and I've just been painting and glazing and varnishing and framing, and now I feel like I finally have time to sit back and paint. Yesterday was going to the different stores and hunting for thrifting for frames. So I'd like the exhibit to kind of have that Victorian wall feel of just kind of a eclectic collage of paintings, as opposed to one painting on one panel. Let's see. Kind of see the flow of the water coming in here. I'll lift some spots. This is where I'll come in with the white, but probably later on. I'm debating how I want the upper portion of this painting to look. I could have this kind of cloudy effect. I can bring some textures in. I can also bring in some high tree elements, which I think I'm going to lean towards. Guys, play nice. Let's see. think with this kind of the fast and loose style, where there's really no forethought going into it, is kind of just a relaxing, let loose type of style. And sometimes you start to see elements, I think, before other people do, or you start to see what you want to see, and then you build off of it from there. It's very reminiscent, and I've mentioned it before, of a video series that was put out by Mind of Watercolor, where he had called it, I think, spontaneous landscape painting or watercolor painting. And he would super saturate his paper, feed his pigments in, lift it up and move it around, and allow everything to kind of trail about, and then create an image from that. And I've seen that done with, what was it? I think it was black and cobalt blue in a video of a kind of a foggy scene. So I think it was done by the American Watercolor Society, and a gentleman used the same technique for fog. So kind of really letting it paint itself. I think that's even the title of a watercolor book, or letting the watercolors do the work for you. So I'm taking the number 1 rigger and I'm putting some pigment in, moving some ideas around and creating some elements. I like this jutting of land here. So now that I have some things framed and prepared for that exhibit, there's going to be more kind of painting videos getting ready and going up. I've been kind of working on the backlog of things right now. And to be honest, the watercolor feels just a little off for me, just because it's been a little while since I've painted in watercolor. And compositionally, I've been doing some sketching and getting some ideas down, but that's been lacking as well. But you can see that I went towards that S-shaped composition. Went back across here. That harsh line that I put in across this landmass, you could either keep that in or you could break that up. And I'm looking to pull some pigment and some different values out of these trees. Get some variation in it just so it's not one mass. Went to the art supply store yesterday. Hobby Lobby had mentioned that I also went hunting for thrifting for frames, and I noticed that Hobby Lobby, they had all of their watercolors on sale. I might go back and pick up some more and pick up some oils. And I was going somewhere with that story, but I lost track. Oh, okay. Yeah, they had like a lot of their just stuff on clearance. I don't know if they're just switching over to different packaging, different manufacturers, or just getting rid of stuff. But they had a lot of the sponges on sale, and I've never really used a sponge for watercolor. Kind of the sea sponges, using them for textures, and it has me thinking that it's worth a shot getting some and playing around with them. Just wonder how they hold up, how they stain, how quickly they kind of become clogged, and if you can kind of stamp and change it up. Since I was using the paper towel and using that to lift, we're just creating some ideas in here. I'm not going to dry this off just yet. I'm going to grab a different brush. Here I got the squirrel mop. I'm going to grab some of the gouache that I put out. I'm going to put that in here. Let's see. Pulling up and going in. I'm thinking, how high do I want to bring this? And come with horizontal strokes in here. It's still wet in here, so it'll diffuse some. There we go. I'm looking at these openings in the clouds. I don't want to completely fill them with white. Let me flatten this a little bit. I use the back of the brush so I don't get any oils from my fingers onto the paper. Looks like it's drier up here. You can see it's not really diffusing. I'm trying to bring that element up and out with the idea that I really don't want it to look like two eyes right here. I started seeing that happen, and I really don't want any faces in the clouds. Let's bring that out up more. This might be a little too much, but we'll see. It's all about experimenting with the sepia and looking to see what happens. I also picked up some acrylic inks that were on clearance. I have to go through the bag. I haven't taken it out yet and figure out some pen and ink, pen and wash drawings. I have some sepia acrylic ink. It was really fun for the study of Claude Lorraine's landscape drawing. So I'd like to do some more of that. Let me pause the camera for a moment. I gotta blow my nose. All right, sorry about that. So I don't know what it's been. It's been kind of that heat wave down here in Louisiana. Texas has been dealing with the same thing. We did have some clusters of storms come through today, but I'm not sure if the lack of storms and everything drying caused pollen and all that stuff to be in the air, or being that it's summer, the cats have been shedding, so maybe that's been getting to me more. Or maybe the rain today actually moved things around. So who knows? Still probably 3 years into allergy shots, and I have been doing a lot better. I don't get the sinus sickness that I would get. The sinus infections would kind of progress to the point where they'd be kind of fluish, where everything would just get very stuck up in there. And if you go back in the channel, you'll probably hear a lot of videos of me complaining about my ears because of the eustachian tubes and the fluid buildup, which hasn't been that bad, very, very luckily. It used to be, it happens once in a while now, but not as much. And I'm a school teacher, where they would have a pep rally, and I just literally could not go into the gym for the pep rally because the noise was so loud. My ears would feel and sound like broken speakers. And I thought that I had done hearing damage just from loud music or headphones, but it was just all that fluid in there, to the point where sometimes my own voice would make my ears hurt. Even the flushing of a toilet would make that pain happen. It's pretty crazy. I'm surprised the doctor never did one of those the sinoplasties, or the balloonoplasties, whatever it's called, where they put everything in there and kind of expand the sinus cavities. Or maybe one day that'll be in my future. I'll keep y'all posted on that. Sorry, I know that's not what y'all want to hear when you're watching a video about painting. And I'll take it one step further, and I apologize for those that are still watching. With colored pencils, whenever I sharpen or use the pencils, I start to sneeze as well. And I looked online, and this just might be like a WebMD type thing where you just look it up and you're like, oh, I have that. Where the my allergies, I'll sneeze a little bit and I'll feel a little stuffy whenever I sharpen or use the colored pencils. And they're apparently to the wood and things like that, and you can have allergies. So. And being that I tested positive for everything except for mold, feathers, and cockroaches. Yeah, I'm allergic to all the trees. We didn't do a dry off yet. All we did was kind of blab in this video, but I think I kind of needed a blabbing session. Maybe that's my way to transition back into painting. Plus it's summer, so I know a lot of y'all are outdoors and you're doing family events. Today's the 4th of July, actually. We did a little barbecue earlier. Luckily, we were underneath like a carport because it was raining. Let's see. Just pulling and pushing. I like the way the gouache is sitting back there. I really don't want to mix the two of them. I'm really not much of a gray person, but it might be something that needs to be done. I might save that for a separate video. But I did recently learn, and I am using the #1 rigger, so we are going to get some mixture and some gray in it anyway, because of using the same brushes and the same wash water. Maybe that'll help give some different effects. I did recently learn about an art school that's apparently nicknamed the Gray School. It was 1700, sorry, not 1700s at all. It was 1860s, Netherlands area. It was nicknamed the Gray School, and it was based off of the French Barbizon, which was what Tonalist was built off of. And it had the muted landscapes, stuff that I really enjoyed. So that's gonna spark a whole bunch of inquiries and searching on my part. We're gonna scrape back at the rounded edge of a scraper here. With the whole preparation for the summer, the end of the summer events that I was talking about, I had become very messy in here, but I did find this scraping tool that Mr. Mark had sent me, and I've been wanting to utilize that, so let's use this. You can of course use so the credit card, the back of the fingernail, the back of a brush, different things to build up those scrapes. And I'm gonna acquiesce to using some of that white in here. Let's see how that looks. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Since this series is all about experimenting with a sepia and different toned paper in different application, we're probably going to do a dry and dry. Here is a more liberal use of the white gouache. Let me know what you think, or what you would like to see, or what type of experimental ideas you have. We should do a dry off. I do like the way that fed right in there. All right, I'm gonna pause for a dry off real quick. All right, so before we go any further, just a quick, please like, subscribe, follow. I have links down below to the Patreon if you want to support this channel financially. All those things, excuse me, really help out, and I thank you so much to everybody that supports this channel. I use that to then put into the supplies and experiment with more and more. So thank you all for that. With the dry off, and I've noticed this with this tube, that has the bronzing effect taking place in a few spots. And this happened in previous videos, where excessive application of the tube, the pigment, will kind of cause a leathery looking effect. This is written about on handprint.com and was brought to my attention by Gio Menza, another watercolorist. He's come up with a few different ways to get rid of that effect if you don't like the way that looks. But that being said, I think we came to the conclusion that under glass, which is the way you should display watercolor if you don't have some sort of protectant over it, that it will then in turn really not seem like much of an effect, so you really don't have to worry about it. So that being said, I'm taking the number 1, putting in some kind of dark accents and putting some ideas in. And while I was doing the dry off, I was looking at it compositionally, and I pointed out how there was the S-shaped composition, but there's also a steelyard composition taking place, where we have the, but in regards to tonal values and color, we have a heavy light application of white right here, right near the center, and then farther off towards the edge we have that heavy white application to balance that out. So you could really use and exploit that with a tree trunk far off to the side if we were to have a color in the sky and then have that color there, or have it down here, or even have it up here. We could also see kind of just triangular effects happening as well. So a mixture of compositions, just different things to find and appease the eye. Whenever I watch stuff on composition or read stuff on composition, I often think to myself, there's no way that somebody had planned it to that effect. But then you see sketches from the old masters where they had guidelines and all this preparation, and you see where they actually located those things in those spots. So I don't know if that's just literally, I don't mean this derogatorily, like taking it to the extreme of doing that, or if they had that much free time to do that. But I'm really, if you know by now, I don't really plan out a lot of paintings, or if I do sketches, they're really quick application. I have read in the past that oftentimes artists, or at least in books it was recommended, to learn about the different compositions, and then eventually you paint so much they become secondhand, and you start to inherently look for them and use them without even really meaning to. But that being said, it's just I want to point those out. I think we'll do our last dry off, we'll sign it, and we'll call this one done. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to kind of go through the catalog of videos that I have up, and I have like a backlog of just 50 videos, but a lot of them are time lapses, and I know some people don't enjoy those. So I'm gonna play around with what's gonna be rolled out, and hopefully there'll be some interesting things for y'all to enjoy. Hope you all enjoyed, and have a great day. Bye.